The young and the restless spoilers shock. Traci and Sharon sat in a quiet corner of the small, warmly lit cafe, the low hum of conversation and the gentle clink of coffee cups setting a subdued backdrop to their intense discussion. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the faint scent of pastries, creating an ambience that was both comforting and slightly surreal given the gravity of the conversation. Sharon's eyes, usually so bright and lively, were clouded with a deep-seated melancholy. With a tremor in her voice, she began to confide in Traci about the nightmare that had haunted her every night since the ordeal. "I've been having these nightmares," Sharon confessed, her fingers nervously twisting the edge of the ceramic mug in her hands. "Ever since I was kidnapped, the visions of that place. I can't seem to shake them off." Her gaze drifted to the window, as if searching for answers in the blurred silhouettes of passers-by. The memories were too vivid, too raw. Traci leaned in, her tone gentle yet probing. "Tell me about that place, Sharon. What was it like? Was it as dreadful as you predicted it might be?" Her voice held a blend of curiosity and concern, hinting at the knowledge she seemed to already possess about the sinister location. Taking a deep breath, Sharon's eyes filled with a mix of fear and resignation. "It wasn't just any place. Phyllis and I were held captive in what looked like an abandoned psychiatric hospital. It was a decrepit building, forgotten by time, with peeling paint and corridors that echoed with the whispers of past despair. There were no guards, no obvious signs of human presence aside from the ever-watchful eyes of hidden cameras." She paused, her voice dropping to a near whisper as she recalled the surreal terror of that day. The kidnappers never came into the room. They controlled everything remotely, issuing orders through a loudspeaker as if orchestrating a cruel play from the shadows. At that moment, Traci's attention sharpened. The mention of the abandoned hospital stirred memories of an alert notification that had appeared on Alan's phone earlier that day. Traci had been following the latest updates on a case that seemed unrelated until now. The phone had vibrated insistently with an alert, a cryptic message accompanied by images of a sealed room, a room that bore a striking resemblance to the descriptions Sharon had just provided. Traci's heart pounded with the realization that her suspicions were, in fact, founded on something tangible. Before Traci could voice her thoughts, the cafe door swung open abruptly, and in walked Phyllis. Her usually vibrant demeanor was replaced by a palpable tension, and as she approached the table, it was clear that the secret they all shared had grown too heavy to contain any longer. "Sharon, I'm here," Phyllis said quietly, sliding into the seat beside her friend. Her eyes darted to Traci, silently pleading for discretion. The trio had been bound by a harrowing secret for too long, and now, as the evidence loomed larger than ever, the truth was beginning to unravel. Traci, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear, finally confessed, "I saw it, Alan's phone alert. There were photos of a room, a sealed room that matched your description of the abandoned hospital. I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure, but now it all seems to add up." Her admission was both a relief and a spark of terror, as she realized that the pieces of the puzzle were clicking into place far faster than any of them had anticipated. Sharon and Phyllis exchanged horrified glances, their expressions mirroring the dread that had been festering within them. "What does this mean?" Sharon whispered, her voice barely audible over the soft background music. "Do you think we're being watched again?" Phyllis added, her tone edged with panic. The weight of the realization that their captors were not only monitoring them during their imprisonment but possibly even beyond the confines of that forsaken hospital was almost too much to bear. Traci continued, her voice steady despite the tumultuous emotions swirling within her. "It means that our captors are methodical. They didn't leave anything to chance. The hospital was not just a random location, it was chosen deliberately. And the fact that Alan's phone displayed images of that sealed room, it confirms that someone out there is tracking every detail, every moment." She paused, allowing the gravity of her words to sink in. "We're not dealing with a random act of violence. This is a well-orchestrated plan, and whoever is behind it has been watching us for a long time." The cafe, once a haven of normalcy, now felt like a trap, its comforting ambience replaced by a sinister aura of conspiracy and dread. Outside, the city continued its indifferent hustle, oblivious to the dangerous secrets being exchanged within those walls. Sharon's voice wavered as she recalled the moment of her kidnapping. I remember the sound of that speaker. It was cold and mechanical, yet somehow chilling. It gave orders, almost as if it was a disembodied puppeteer controlling our every move. And in the silence that followed, I could almost hear my own heartbeat, each thump a reminder of the terror that gripped me. Her eyes brimmed with tears, the recollection of those dark moments overwhelming her. Phyllis, who had endured her own share of horror, added, we were isolated, not just physically but psychologically. The lack of any human presence in that derelict asylum amplified our fear. It was as if we were invisible to the world, trapped in a nightmare orchestrated by someone who knew exactly how to dismantle our sense of security. Her words hung heavily in the air, the confession a raw testament to the psychological torment they had both endured. Traci, now fully immersed in the gravity of the situation, proposed a plan. We need to confront whoever is behind this. With the evidence from Alan's phone and our own experiences, it's time to piece everything together and expose them. We owe it to ourselves, and to anyone else who might be caught in this web of deception. Her determination sparked a flicker of hope in the midst of despair, a glimmer of light in an otherwise dark narrative. The conversation shifted from recounting past horrors to strategizing their next steps. Traci, Sharon, and Phyllis began to discuss possible leads and connections that might explain the eerie coordination of their abductions. They hypothesized about the significance of the abandoned hospital, the methodical surveillance, and the precise execution of the kidnappings. Every detail was scrutinized, the layout of the building, the way the cameras were positioned, the technical setup that allowed the captors to control the situation remotely. It became clear that this was not a random act of violence but a meticulously planned operation, one that required inside knowledge and technological prowess. As they pieced together the fragments of information, a chilling pattern emerged. The same style of operation had been reported in isolated incidents across different regions, a network of abductions that seemed to operate with the same eerie precision. It was as if a shadow organization was using abandoned facilities as temporary holding cells, monitoring their captives remotely, and executing orders with military-like precision. The realization that they might be dealing with a larger conspiracy sent shivers down their spines. Traci, always the rational one, decided that their first course of action should be to verify the evidence from Alan's phone and trace the origins of the images. If we can pinpoint the location of that sealed room, it might give us the breakthrough we need, she explained. Her analytical mind began to map out the connections between the digital clues and the physical locations described by Sharon and Phyllis. Sharon, though still shaken by the memories, found strength in the unity of their shared mission. I'm terrified, but I know we can't let fear paralyze us. We have to fight back, to take control of our own narrative, she declared, her voice gaining a firmness that belied her inner turmoil. Phyllis, the once vibrant force of optimism now tempered by the harsh realities they faced, nodded in agreement. We have each other, and together we can unravel this mystery. It's time to reclaim our lives from the shadows that have haunted us for far too long. Her words, though soft, resonated with an undeniable power, a call to arms against an enemy that thrived on fear and secrecy. In that quiet cafe, amidst whispered confidences and the clatter of everyday life, the trio formed an unspoken pact. They would delve into the murky depths of this conspiracy, using every tool at their disposal, digital forensics, personal testimonies, and even reaching out to allies who might have encountered similar horrors. The abandoned hospital, with its dark corridors and cold, mechanical commands, would no longer be a symbol of their victimization but a starting point for their quest for justice. As the afternoon sun began to wane, casting long shadows across the table, Traci's final words echoed in the minds of her companions. We're not just survivors, we're warriors. And together, we're going to expose every hidden truth until our captors can no longer hide behind their screens and cold, lifeless cameras. The revelation of Alan's phone alert was not just a piece of digital evidence, it was the key that unlocked a series of events leading to the eventual unmasking of the mastermind behind their abductions. In the days that followed, with mounting evidence and a growing network of support, the identity of the elusive kidnapper emerged from the shadows. No longer a faceless threat, the orchestrator of their torment was finally revealed, leaving behind a trail of carefully guarded secrets and a legacy of fear that would be dismantled piece by piece. In that defining moment, as the truth came crashing down like a tidal wave, Sharon, Phyllis, and Traci stood united. Their shared ordeal had forged a bond stronger than any force the mastermind could have imagined. And though the scars of their past would forever remind them of the horrors they had endured, they found solace in the fact that they had reclaimed their lives from the clutches of darkness. The nightmare was over, and the era of silence and fear was replaced by a resolute pursuit of justice, ensuring that no one else would ever have to face the terror of an abandoned hospital, a cold voice over a speaker, and the haunting reminder that sometimes, the darkest secrets lie in plain sight. Traci's heart was still pounding as she revisited Alan's phone, the screen now displaying a message that sent an icy shiver down her spine. Remote device unexpectedly disconnected. Gas push process has been halted. The terse, technical phrasing of the notification seemed to hold far more significance than a mere malfunction. It was as though the very system that had been orchestrating their torment had suddenly paused, a detail that could not be ignored. In the cozy yet tense atmosphere of the cafe, Sharon leaned forward, her eyes reflecting both hope and trepidation. "Maybe you and Phyllis should speak with Alan," she suggested softly, her tone laced with the urgency of someone who believed that every second counted. It was a daring idea, one that might offer a glimpse into the labyrinth of control and surveillance that had haunted them. However, before any agreement could be reached, Traci's voice quivered as she interjected, "No, you two can't talk to him right now. He's in Paris." Her words hung in the air, an unexpected barrier that momentarily stalled the group's determination. Traci's revelation about Alan's location added a new layer of complexity to an already convoluted situation. The prospect of consulting a brilliant mind from across the continent now felt both tantalizing and frustrating, as the physical distance seemed to underscore the intangible gap between the clues they had uncovered and the full story behind their captivity. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to another part of their intricate network of alliances. In a quiet room that doubled as a makeshift clinic, Phyllis sat down with Summer and Nick. The mood was markedly different from the charged atmosphere of the cafe. Here, there was an odd sense of levity mingled with bitterness. Phyllis, ever the candid soul, recounted the recent agreement she and Sharon had reached. "We decided," she said with a half-smile, "to leave all our anger and resentment right there on the clinic floor." Her tone was both defiant and humorously resigned, as though the sheer absurdity of their situation demanded such a release. After all, being kidnapped, nearly dying twice, and then having a single moment of clarity, it's almost enough to get you to that point, she joked, attempting to find solace in dark humor. Nick, who had been listening intently, nodded in agreement. "I'm sure your conversation with Sharon helped a lot," he remarked, his voice sincere. His eyes held a mixture of empathy and curiosity, recognizing that behind Phyllis's light-hearted comment lay the gravity of their shared experiences. The conversation, though brief, resonated deeply, as it was not just about venting frustrations, it was about acknowledging the strength they had summoned during the most desperate times. Phyllis leaned back, her gaze shifting as she recounted a memory that seemed both distant and vividly present. "I once saw a woman, pushed to the brink, who did everything possible to save my life," she recalled, her voice softening with recollection. It was a moment of raw vulnerability that underscored the interconnectedness of their fates. Nick's expression grew thoughtful as he gently reminded her, "And you, Phyllis, saved Sharon's life too." His words were meant to comfort, to remind her that even in the midst of chaos, there had been acts of heroism and selflessness. Phyllis paused, a pained smile tugging at her lips as she admitted, "I have to admit, though, that she wasn't exactly clear-headed when she set a trap for Daniel." The irony of the situation was not lost on them. The very person who had acted under duress, driven by the sheer instinct to survive, had found herself entangled in a web of misjudgments and harsh decisions. She is a victim, just like the rest of us, Phyllis added, her tone a mixture of regret and resolve. The statement was not an indictment but a recognition that, in the chaos of their shared ordeal, clarity was a luxury they could seldom afford. At that moment, the sound of the door creaking open signaled the arrival of Sharon, who carried with her the urgency of recent revelations. "I just got off the phone with Traci," Sharon announced, her voice a blend of excitement and caution. She fixed her gaze on Phyllis, her eyes searching for any sign of doubt. "Do you want to talk to Alan?" she asked, the question hanging like a fragile thread between hope and hesitation. Without missing a beat, Sharon continued, "He's a brilliant therapist. Wouldn't it be amazing if Alan Laurent were the key we need to help put an end to this ordeal?" Her words were filled with a mixture of admiration and desperate optimism. The thought of a mind capable of untangling the layers of their trauma, of offering insights into the sinister methods behind their kidnappings, sparked a glimmer of hope in their otherwise dark reality. The room fell silent for a moment as each of them processed the implications of Sharon's suggestion. Traci's earlier disclosure about Alan being in Paris now seemed all the more significant. It was as if fate had positioned their lives on a precarious balance, where the next step they took could either lead them closer to salvation or plunge them deeper into the unknown. Phyllis's gaze hardened with resolve as she exchanged a determined look with Summer and Nick. Despite the myriad of unresolved questions and the lingering fear that had shadowed every moment since their ordeal began, she felt a newfound strength emerging from their collective resolve. "I think we should reach out to him," Phyllis declared, her tone decisive. "Even if he's miles away, a conversation with him might provide the breakthrough we desperately need." Nick leaned forward, his expression reflecting both skepticism and cautious hope. "I agree," he said, "but we must be careful. If our captors are monitoring us, any misstep could alert them. This isn't just about our individual survival, it's about dismantling a system that has tormented us for too long." His words underscored the precarious tightrope they were walking, where every decision carried potentially dangerous consequences. Outside, the city continued its relentless pace, unaware of the secret alliances and quiet revolutions taking place within the walls of that unassuming cafe and the makeshift clinic. The juxtaposition of everyday normalcy with the high-stakes drama unfolding in their lives was a constant reminder of how fragile and unpredictable existence could be. In one moment, a routine check of a smartphone could uncover the hidden machinations of a covert operation. In the next, shared memories of survival could unite them against an invisible enemy. As the conversation deepened, the trio began to sketch out a tentative plan. They knew that contacting Alan Laurent might be their only chance to piece together the jigsaw puzzle of their past horrors and present fears. The idea was to use his expertise not only to understand the psychological impact of their ordeal but also to trace the digital breadcrumbs that had led them to the abandoned hospital, a location that was now etched into their memories with painful clarity. Sharon's eyes sparkled with determination as she said, "Imagine if we could get a hold of Alan's insights, if we could understand why our captors chose such a meticulous method. It could be the turning point we need to take back control." Her words carried the weight of countless sleepless nights and the resolve of someone who had stared down the darkest corners of fear and emerged with a sliver of hope. Traci, though still visibly shaken by the earlier revelation about Alan's location, nodded in agreement. "I know it sounds risky," she cautioned, "but sometimes the most unconventional methods are the ones that lead us out of the maze. If we can get a direct line to him, even if it's through a video call, we might finally break the cycle of fear." Her pragmatic approach provided a counterbalance to the emotional intensity of the discussion, reminding everyone that while their hearts were heavy with memories of terror, their minds remained sharp enough to strategize. As the group deliberated, the ambient noise of the city filtered through the cafe's windows, merging with their murmur of plans and concerns. The dialogue between hope and caution, between the need for immediate action and the importance of safeguarding against further surveillance, played out like a delicate dance. Every piece of evidence, every whispered recollection of the past, seemed to converge towards a singular truth. That they were not merely victims of circumstance, but active participants in a broader narrative that demanded to be unraveled. Phyllis, drawing strength from the support of Summer and Nick, added with a quiet intensity, "We've all been pushed to the edge. And in those moments, some of us have done things that we might not be proud of, but those actions were about survival. I remember that woman who fought for my life when everything seemed lost. That spirit is still within us, even if our minds sometimes betray us with moments of irrationality." Her eyes met Nick's, and for a brief moment, the shared history of their struggle forged an unspoken bond of trust and understanding. "Nick,"